Hello guys, so welcome back to the channel. So today we are going to be talking about the multi-domain management server and equally the virtual system extension as regards to the checkpoint firewall. So now within the lab that we have here, we have the MDS that's going to be like our multi-domain server. I want to talk about the multi-domain server. The multi-domain server setup gives us the ability to create several different security management server within the same checkpoint appliance, right? And also I want to talk about the virtual system extension, that's the VSX. It helps us to create several virtual firewalls within a single checkpoint appliance or an open server. That's a device that is not a checkpoint device. So that's just the setup of what we have. So explaining the lab here, this 10.0.0.2 net, the 10.10.0 network that we have on this side here, this is just a management network where we have our test PC. We equally have our MDS server, and we are going to have our virtual systems running inside this appliance. Now, following what we have here, we have also two devices. This device will represent one network, and this other device will have another network. So we have two different networks running to our switch, and within this switch, we are going to have two different VLANs, and this VLANs is going to be trunked to the virtual firewall, to this checkpoint appliance here, where we are going to have sub interfaces. So we are going to have sub interfaces carrying traffic for the two different networks, and each sub interface is going to be controlled by a virtual system. And on this other side here, we just have another network for connectivity test to see if traffic can go through from one of these networks, get to the virtual firewalls, and then go to this other network. So the virtual firewalls then just act like an independent firewall where each of them have their own unique policies and the likes of that. And we're going to also see how to set the MDS up. So it's going to be managing all these different VSX firewalls. So we'll create two different um, SMS firewalls, that's the domains. We'll create them inside there. And from there, we'll set things up as they have to be. So with that being said, let's just go straight to see how we can make that happen. So within this PC, I've done the installation already, but we are going to do the first time installation wizard. So we see how we can be able to set the MDS up and equally to set up a firewall for VXX. So now I'll just go to our test PC. This is our test PC. You double click on it. So once I double click on it, make sure that your IP address matches what you have on your design, and equally the gateway of the device should be this interface here. That's 10.10.10.1. So within the lab we have here, I'm just going to go straight to our browser. I'm going to use Chrome. I'll just give it some time to come up. So while it's up, we're just going to do the first time configuration wizard for this our MDS here. So we'll just put in the IP that's 10.10.10.2 to get into the Gaia portal. That's 10.10.2. We hit enter there, and I'm also going to open another tab for us to set up the firewall itself. That's HTTP. Dot 10.1. So that's the IP address of the firewall there. So hit that, I'll come back here, and this is for the MDS. We'll click on advanced, we'll proceed. Since this is a local app environment, so we'll proceed with it, and I'll just input the password that we have. That should be admin, and our password should be, let me set this up. Let's wait for it to come through. So we'll just proceed. I'll just put in our password that we had. We'll just log in, and of course we'll be prompted to follow through with the first time configuration wizard. So this is our firewall here. We're just going to proceed with the same thing as well. I'll just hit on advanced and we'll take proceed to 10.10.10.1. And once we're here, we'll input our password as well. So we'll just come back first to the MDS that we're trying to set up, and hopefully it all goes well. We'll just give you some time to give us that startup page. So now it's back. So we'll just proceed as usual. Just take next. So from here, we'll just proceed with RA82 installation. We click next as well. And also once we are here, we just have to proceed to next. We're not going to configure another interface. Here, we just take next as well. For the name, I'm just going to give you the name as just give the name as the MDS. If you have a domain server, you can always input them here, but we'll leave that the way it is. Here for the time as well, make sure it matches that in your local area. And we'll go to the next. So now this is where the whole setup for the MDS comes to play. So rather than going normally with the security gateway, you need to choose the multi-domain server. So you need to make sure you check this little box here. That's what you need to check. Don't go the regular path, and then when you do that, you take next. And then this is going to be the primary domain server. If you want to create secondary for backup and the likes of that, then you can do that. But here, we'll just take primary multi-domain server and select leading interface. This is going to be our leading interface. We'll take that, allow it the way it is, and we'll take next. Here, any host can be able to get GUI client access. We'll just take yes and use any Gaia administrator. But in a production environment, you want to make this as tight as possible. But we'll just leave this the way it is for now. From here, we'll take finish so that it can be installed and be ready for us. We'll take yes here. So this is our MDS server setup. That's already going through. The next thing is we need to go to set up our first time installation wizard for our VSX firewall. So that's what we are going to do. I'm just going to come here to the Gaia configuration wizard for 10.10.10.1. So it's already ready here. Just go next as well. Continue. We'll go next. We'll not configure any interface. And here, we'll just put in the name as we can give the name as firewall or VSX. I use a VSX firewall. You can give any name of your choice. I put the domain name the way it is. You can click on next. And also you can maintain the time or you can change it based on your environment that you are in. So here now, instead of choosing the multi-domain server, we'll proceed to security gateway. I'll click on next. And once we're here, make sure you check security gateway. And also, once you check, allow just security gateway to be up. I'm going to uncheck security management. Let me uncheck it. Yes, that's been unchecked. So once we are there, you need to make sure that This unit is part of a cluster type. You hit the drop down arrow here. We're not going to do anything on this. We'll just allow it the way it is. We'll just allow it to be a normal gateway. There's nothing much we are here to do for now. I'll show us where we can make this particular system to be a virtual system here. So it's not part of a cluster, it's not part of a VRRP cluster. We'll just allow it the way it is to just be a normal security gateway. And then from here, we'll just take next as a normal security gateway. We'll just take next and we'll proceed. We'll just keep the defaults the way they are. We'll normally put our key for the secure internal communication between the different MDS servers and the VSX servers. So I'll just put the one we have. Okay, and then we'll take next. And we'll take finish. So when you're done with that, just proceed to the confirmations, and when it's done, we're going to come back to it to see how it's all going. So let's just wait for all the setups that we have done to be completed, and when it's done, we'll come back to it to see how to set it up right. All right, guys, so at this point, our MDS has been successfully installed. We'll just take OK, and also at the level of the firewall side of things, everything is done and ready. So now that's the first sector of things we need to note. Now, while we're still at the level of our smart console, which is within this smart console PC2, the next thing we have to do is we just need to go in and set our MDX and equally bring in our firewall and create our VSX firewalls from within. So the first things we need to do is we need to get into this PC2, get into our smart console PC, and then get into the MDS server. So I'll just minimize this browser that we have here. I'll minimize the browser. And then I'm going to log in into that our MDS server. So I'll just go to R82. That's the current version of the Checkpoint OS. That's the Gaia OS. So we'll just wait for it to come up. Alright, so when your smart console comes up, you want to log in with the admin details of the MDS. So the username we had there was admin, and the password we had was admin123. And equally, the MDS server, which we are going to be logging into, the server side is 10.10.10.2. That's what we have on our topology here. We'll just log into that, and then from there on, we'll see what to do from there. So once we are prompted with this message, we just need to take proceed. Just confirm the fingerprint. So when you take proceed, you'll be prompted with this message here as the MDS. You can always just proceed with MDS. That's the multi-domain server. We'll just take proceed again. Alright, so now we are currently logged into the MDS server, and we can see that we are currently there. And once we are there, if you look closely, you see that the option to actually create security policies is actually taken off, because that's going to be done within the security management servers, that within the different domains that will be created within this multi-domain server here. So now with what we have here, first of all, we need to set it up. You need to just right click first when you get in here for the first time. You click edit. So once we get here, there's one thing we need to set. We need to make sure we set the range of different domains that we are going to be creating. So what do I mean? When you click on domains, and then you need to always set the range. Currently, the range of IP addresses should be within this network here that we currently have of the MDS server. So we're trying to say that we want to create several other domains, in other words, other different security management servers within the same MDS appliance that we have. Definitely, we should start maybe from 10.10. Let me put it in there well. We should start from 10. start from 10.10 dot, that should be dot, let's say dot 5 to 10.10.10 dot, let's just say maybe 10, in case we want to have this many different domains. Like, so you can keep that and you just take OK. So that's the first thing we need to do to create those different, to create these different ranges that are available here. So after that, we can now go ahead to create our first domain. That's going to be like just going to be like security management server that's hosted within this particular device. So we'll create two of them. I'm just going to click the domain, and then when I click that domain, I'll just give it I'll just say, just give the name like domain1. Just keep dom1, and then we're just going to say domain servers. This domain is managed by the following servers. So I'll click the plus sign here, and I'm going to put in the IP address here of this domain within that range that we created before. You just put 10.10.10.5. Put .5 there, and it's a management server type. I'll take OK. And that's basically all you need to do to create a domain. Trusted clients, you can add trusted clients if need be, but we'll just keep it as simple as it is for now. And I'll take OK here. Okay, let me just take yes. I'll take continue. I think there's some options we need to set up. So just give it some time for it to be done here. I'll pin this so we can see it clearly as well. I'm also just going to go ahead to creating another domain that we're going to need. I'll just go to domain and we'll create another one, because we'll just use two of them. And while we're here, I'll just say dom2. And I'm just going to give the server an IP address, just like dom2 like that. And we'll give it 10.10.10. Let's say 6. I'll just take OK. And once we're here, let's see trusted clients. And just I'll put here, and we'll just take any host. Yeah. Need to make sure the trusted clients is set to any host. We'll edit this other one and we'll set it up as well like that. And from here, I'll just put OK. Domain name creation, it cannot be changed. I'll take continue. Yes, we are aware of that. Yes, we are also aware of this. We'll just take continue as well. So it's going to try to create this in queue. So we'll just hold on for the both of them to be done. That's domain 1 and domain 2. And once they are done, we can go ahead to we'll log into them. And once we log into them, then we can then create a different VSX systems and the likes of that to see that they are all managed clearly. So this is the first step. First, we have our two domains. That's our two security management servers in effect being created within one checkpoint appliance. All right, so we have our two domains here. Currently, the second domain has been created already, and this is the first domain. Right, so we'll just give some time for it to come up so we can log into it. And once we log into it, we'll log into it as we are logging into any smart console. And then from there, we can bring in the firewall and then create our virtual different firewalls within that same firewall. So this is the first one, the first domain, and this is the second domain that we have right here. So I'm just going to close this for now, and we'll just hold on for everything to be done. So right now, both of them are completely created, and synchronization with the multi-domain, with the MDS server is actually taking place. So just give it some few seconds for it to be done. And once it gets done, then we'll proceed. So this is how you create the different domains. Probably the practical use case of this is in an environment that is quite broad, and you want to ensure that maybe one domain server is managing an entire environment separate from other environments. So that's the time when you can use it. So within this lab, I'm just going to close this. it's going to be running up behind the scene. So now, to log into it, these are the different MDS servers. I'm just going to right click on it, and then you see connect to the domain server here. So just hit connect to it. That's the domain, the first one. So you're just opening up like a normal smart console login process as usual. So once it logs in, then from there now we'll see the regular view. And then while we are in there, we'll then bring in this our firewall that we installed. And once we bring in this firewall, we're also going to create our different virtual firewalls from within it. And we'll discuss the tips as to how to make that happen once we get there as well. So just give it some time to boot things up, and then once we are there, we'll see how to make it work smoothly. So we'll just go ahead and proceed. All right, so now we are currently logged in into this our first domain server that we created, and remember that we still have the MDS sector of things open, and here we are currently in the first domain server that we created. So within this domain server that's currently hosted within the MDS server, what we're going to do now is that we're going to bring in our firewall here. It's just a regular gateway, and I'm going to bring it in. I'll just close the welcome message. This is a welcome message here. I'll go on new, and we're just going to bring in, you need to go to VSX and then you take VSX gateway. Now the issue is this is not yet recognized as a VSX gateway. This firewall, we installed it as a gateway, but it's not yet recognized as a VSX gateway. So to make it to be a VSX gateway before we bring it in that domain server, what we need to do is we need to log in here. I'll just go with admin and I'll enter admin 123. And while we're here, it shows VSX firewall. That's the name that we gave to it. But within the system itself, it's not yet recognized as a VSX security gateway. So we need to always get into cpconfig. When you type cpconfig, you'll get these options. And once you're here, you need to be able to choose the, let's see. So we'll just get back to our domain server here. And once we're here, you click on new, or just go to VSX, and then we'll just take the VSX gateway and see what we have there. And I'll just go with the legacy mode. This is what we're going to check. We'll check the legacy mode. We'll just go with that legacy mode there. I'll take next. And once we are here, we just need to put in our name. I'll just take VSX firewall and enter the VSX gateway IP. We'll just put the IPv4 address, and that is 10.10.10.1. And also just the version is 82, yes. You can change it to suit your environment. From there, we'll just take next. And here the activation key that was used, I'll put in what I used there. And I'm going to initialize for that trust to be established. So the trust is established, is trusted, and we'll just proceed to next here. So once we're here, it is a ways for management. It's not going to be carrying Ethernet traffic. But now for VLAN trunk, which one are we going to be trunking? You know, this ET2 is connected to these two different networks, which we are going to be creating VLANs here for the separate networks. So this will be a trunk port carrying the different VLAN based network traffic coming up to this our VSX firewall here. And those two different networks will be managed by our two different virtual systems that we create. So now we need to specify that this particular interface here is going to be a trunk port. So it's going to be receiving trunk based traffic. So that's ETH2. I'll just check ET2 there, and that's all we need. I'll just take next. We'll just hold on for it to give us the options. So we can see here define firewall rules. For now, we'll just take the accept traffic for define firewall rules, specify the management rules. These are just the management. We're just going to specify in case we want SNMP. This is in case you want to be able to manage this VSX firewall on the management interface using let's say SNMP, SSH, echo request for ICMP. If you want all of that to go through, you can always click here. And aside this, any other thing you try to do is going to be dropped. So that's just why we are checking this. This is not for all traffic. This is just for specific management traffic to our virtual systems that are available, to the virtual firewall rather. So I just take next, and then from there, we should be good to go. You have allowed services with the source. Yes, that's fine. You can play around with it as your environment needs, but we'll just allow it the way it is there for now. So after doing that, I'll just hit on finish for us to be done with the creation. So it's going to create the virtual gateway. Now, this is not the virtual, we're just bringing the virtual, this VSX firewall, we're just bringing it into the first domain that we created within this MDS server here. So it should be managed from it. When we do that, then we are going to get into it from within this MDS server, and then we create our two virtual systems. And also, this is where it gets a little bit technical here. Now, you remember that the firewalls, these virtual firewalls that we're going to be creating, are all going to be acting independent of each other, just like any regular firewall behaves. So we're going to create two of them within like one single checkpoint appliance. So now, also, we are also going to need a virtual router because traffic that's coming from this network here, the IP address here is going to be assigned to a virtual router. And between the virtual router and our two firewalls, there's going to be a unique network that's created within there for routing purposes. So now, what's going to really be the main thing here is how you handle your routing from your networking skills you already have. But I'll try my best to make us understand how it works from within there. So hopefully at this point, we're just trying to bring in the firewall to be managed by this domain server here. So this is it. And once this is done with the creation, the first thing we'll do is we need a virtual router. And that virtual router is just going to be assigned here. And since we're going to input a virtual router and we're going to have two virtual firewalls, those two virtual firewalls, they're going to have independent networks behind them, because the first virtual firewall is going to be hosting, the network behind it is going to belong to 10.10.10.2, and the next virtual firewall is going to be carrying the network behind it is going to be 172.16.1.2. And from the virtual router's perspective, it's going to be directly connected to the virtual systems, but it's not going to be connected to the network behind the virtual systems that we're going to create. So we need to be setting routes to make sure that traffic from the virtual systems get to go through the virtual router, and from the virtual router to other areas, like from this router coming ahead. So your routing here, your routing knowledge, especially static routing, has to actually be up to make it work. So depending on your environment, it could be much easier, but in this case, if you understand how it works, then you're all good to go. So we'll just hold on for all our installations to be done. And once that is ready, we are just going to go in and make that happen. So while this is coming up, I'll just go into our router here. I'll double click on it, and we'll just try to configure it so that once we get to it, things will be ready. So I'll just go to these interfaces 0/0 and then 0/1. We'll go here, we'll go to the configuration mode, enter our interface, and we'll add our IP. We'll put in the IP address there as it suits the area of interest. Take no shutdown. We'll enter the next interface. Input the IP address there, and the IP address from this perspective should be 192.168.10.1. So we'll just save what we have done there, and I'll just take do right now. So also one last thing here is this router is directly connected to this network and also to this network here. But the thing is, if this router wants to get to any other network, you need to forward traffic to this particular interface here. So the IP address in that interface is going to be 192.168.1.2. So in effect, we need just one default route inside here. So I'll just put the route right now. I'll click exit, and here we'll just type IP route. Let me shift my so we'll just put IP route. If the destination is anywhere, you should send it to 192.168.1.2. So I'll just do right man to save that. So we'll just save these our configurations that we have at the moment. And once that is done, that's all we need to do at the level of the router here. The router is just forwarding all traffic gets sent here. In case any device wants to communicate here, since it's already directly connected, it's going to know how to forward traffic to it. So now, coming back to our setup, our server that we have here, everything seems to be fine. I'll close this. So that one is ready. We'll just give it some time and it's all going to be green, even though it's showing us the red signal here. It's just all going to be fine. Let's give it some time then. So now within this server here that we have, the first thing that we need to do is this is our domain. And within this domain, we'll have our VSX firewall that we have brought in. So within this VSX firewall, we need to create two different virtual firewalls, two different virtual systems as in the checkpoint world. So now we'll just hit on the plus icon here. I'll come to VSX and I'm just going to first of all take virtual router. That's the first thing that we'll create first. We need a virtual router in between there, and I'll just give the name like VR. And where do we want to create this virtual router? We need to choose within this our VSX firewall here. That's the only thing we have. So with this VSX firewall is where we're going to be creating it in. I'll take next, and once we take next, we need to create two different interfaces. There's one interface of the virtual firewall that is just going to append itself to this interface, and the next interface is always going to be connected to the virtual systems that we create. So here I'll just take add, and after taking add, here I'll just hit the drop down arrow and I'm going to take ETH1 here, ETH1, that's what we're going to take. I'll take ETH1. It's not going to have any VLAN tag, and the IP address there is going to be this IP address 192.168.1.2. We'll just put it there. And the subnet max /24, and that's going to be it for that. So I'll take OK there. So that's what we need. Automatically it keeps the network within the routes as well. So if we take add again, you see we're going to come back here later, but not now. So we'll come back here to add the other interface that leads to the different virtual systems that we're going to create. So for now, we'll just take on next. Or let me go back here and then I create another route. So we have this interface. So we have a virtual router that we have just created in here. We have created our interface, yes, that's mapped to ET1. And also we need to create a default route. So we'll create a default route. I'll just close this and then I'll take a default route. Here we need to create a default route, add default route here. So add a default route, and the gateway for this default route has to point to this interface of the router. So anything that gets into that virtual router, the router should be able to forward it here. Like this 192.168.1.1. We'll add other routes as well. 192.168.1.1. We should forward it there. And that is going to be it for now. So we're just going to have that, and I'll just take next and finish. This is the first thing you have to create, your virtual router first. So the virtual router has just taken the IP address on this interface. So the next thing is we'll create our virtual systems, and those two virtual systems they'll act like the gateway to devices that are in this network here. So we'll just wait for it to be done, and we'll come back to it. So while it's coming, I'll just come to this our Windows PC and set the IP address that's needed there. I'll just put in the IP at the password. And for this network, our IP address is 192.168.10.10. So I'll just go ahead. So I'll just hold on for it to boot up, and then once it's ready, I'll then put in the IP address as necessary. We'll go to the network and sharing center. We'll go to change adapter settings. Just right click and I'll go to properties, IPv4. Then I'll just put in the IP that we need. Put the subnet mask it's going to maintain, and it needs a gateway, and the gateway for this device should point to this router here. That's 192.10.1. So with that, we are going to be good to go, and I'll just hit OK like that. So I set on that side. Let's check our MDS if it is done. So it's still, the virtual router is still being set up. So while it's still being set up, I'll come to this other Windows PC here and I'll set this one IP as well. Put in the password. And I'll just quickly come here and put this IP as well. The IP address of the device should be 10.2.2.2. The subnet mark should be /24. And also the gateway. This gateway is going to be the IP address of the virtual system from within. That's going to be accessing this network. So that's going to be 172. Sorry, that should be 10.2.2.1. And that should be it for that. I'll click OK here. And also for this our final PC here, this Win PC, we'll double click there and set this IP address as well. From here, we can then be able to put in our IP address that should be from our network. We're going to have 172.168.1.2. We need to equally put in the subnet marks, make sure it's /24. And also the gateway, that's going to be the IP address of our second VSX server, VSX firewall rather. I take OK. So with that, all our IP addresses have been set. Now we need to go back to our virtual PC here. The virtual router has been installed successfully. I'll take close. So now if I hit the drop down arrow here, you see several things. You see we have just the virtual router, We have this firewall, and within this firewall, our virtual router, but our virtual system extensions are not here. Those are virtual firewall. So I'll create a virtual firewall just now. Hit the drop down arrow, and then we're going to go to VSX. And then once you go to VSX, you need to click virtual system now. So we want to create this virtual system. We take the legacy mode and we just take next. So here I'll just give the name VSX1. That's going to be the first VSX1. And where do we want to create this VSX1? We want to create it within this VSX firewall that we just brought in. And we'll just leave the defaults the way they are, and we'll take next. So while we are here, these are virtual systems. We need to now create the interfaces, because now you have the virtual firewall. You want to assign interfaces with IP addresses to those particular firewall. So this is the first virtual system that we have. We'll add the first interface to it, and I'll just take the regular interface here, and then after I'll take the one that leads to the virtual router. For the regular interface is going to be the first sub interface of ET2 that will connect to this particular network here. The next one is going to connect to this particular other network here for the other virtual system. So now I'll just add a regular interface here, and it should give us an option. So here now I'll choose the interface that's ETH2. This is ETH2 here. Remember that when we're setting it up, we choose this interface to be our trunk base interface. That's why we can create sub interfaces there. And the VLAN tag here, I'll just put 10. That's going to be the tag for that. And the IP address here now, it should match the gateway as well. Here we're putting 10.10, 10.2.2.1. So we'll just maintain that here, 10.2.2.1 there. And also the subnet mark should be 255.255.255.2. And that's all we need for that. And we are good to go. We'll take OK. So this is the interface. You see 2.10. The next one, we need to add another one here, but not now. We'll just add the one that leads to the virtual router that we just created. So if you've not created a virtual router, you will not see this option that says leads to virtual router. So now here we have just said interface leads to. You hit the drop down arrow, you see your virtual router here because it was created, and then there's now going to be it leads to virtual router, this interface here, and also there's going to be a new IP address here, the new network that's going to be created between this virtual router and the network. So we'll just put a new network here. I'll just put 10.255.2. I'll put the 2 here, or the 10 here, and on the other side we'll do same as. So this is the new network that we're introducing within the virtual router and this first virtual system that we have created here. I'll take OK as well. So we'll have this here, and you can see the two interfaces that are being created. The one that's leading to its internal network, the one leading to the virtual router. And for the route, you see that these are just directly connected routes. So now we need to add a default route here. We'll tell this virtual firewall, because it's also a router, we'll tell it that in case it receives traffic, it should forward everything to the virtual router. So we just add the default route. You click on add default, and you just say virtual router, and you hit the drop down arrow, and you choose your virtual router here. So you just forward everything to the virtual router. So this is how it's done. You take OK. And that should be it here for now. So you take next, and you take finish. So this should create it for you like this. So now you see this is your VSX1. So now to make use of the other VSX, to make use of the other domain that we created, you must not create all the different virtual firewalls within one domain server. So you have the option to create the next virtual firewall, that's the next virtual system within the other domain server that we created. You can do everything here and it's just going to work fine, but it's also always good to see how you can be able to use the other domain server that we created within the MDS server. We'll just go ahead there and we'll create the next virtual system there. So I'm just going to hover over at the bottom here and I'll go back to the MDS server. This is it right here. And from here, I'll just right click here and I'll just connect to this domain 2. Because right now I've been doing everything on domain 1, and we can have access to the resources we created on the domain server from the domain server 2 that we just created here. So from here, I'll just take connect. We'll connect to it. We'll just connect to it again. We're just going to log into another smart console terminal, and from there we'll have access to everything that we have also been doing from this side. So this is just a basic lab to show us how this can be done. You can go ahead, you play around with it and see how to make it work in a production environment as well. So let's just give it some time, and from there we'll see how to make it work. So from here we'll equally proceed as well. All right, so now from here we are currently logged into the domain server 2, which we logged into just now. And once we are here, you don't need to go through all the other procedures we did. What we're left to do is just to create the second virtual system. And even though we're creating it from here, we are also going to have access to the other virtual router that we created in the first domain server. That's the first security management server. We can have access to it from here. So from here, you just go to VSX, and then you also go to virtual system. I'll just go to take the legacy mode, and then you take next. Once you're here, you can now give it a name or just say VSX2. Where do we want to store it in? You see you have the VSX firewall. Although it was not brought here, it was brought on the first domain server. You see it's equally available here. So you can have access to it from here as well. You take next. We want to create that VSX2. After taking next, we now need to create the two different interfaces again. The one that leads to the internal network for network 2 now, and also the one that leads to the virtual router as well. And we also need to put our routes. So we'll start first to create our first interface, the regular one that leads to our internal network as we explained. And wait for it to come up. So here we'll choose ET2 as well, and the tag for this network is going to be 20 now. And also the IP address here should be 172.16.1.1, and that was a gateway that was set for that second network devices. I'll put in the subnet masks, and also we'll just take OK here. Next, we also need to take add here, where we're going to now add the second interface from the virtual system to the virtual router. So it's a list to virtual router. That's the next interface. Hit the drop down arrow here and choose a virtual router. Any name you gave it, that's what you see here. I'll put a new IP address there. We can maintain that same network 10.255.2.20 now. So here we hit OK. This is for the interface. Now we also need to be able to add start a default route so that traffic that's coming to this second VSX can be routed to the virtual router here. So we'll just take virtual router and then we hit VR here. So this is the route. Take OK, and we are good to go. We take next, and you take finish. So we're creating all of that now within this other domain here. So when we are done with all this, there's one final thing we need to do from our lab here. Because right now, if you realize what we have done, when we created the virtual router, we set a default route within the virtual router to point to this router here. We have created our two different VSX firewalls, and also within them we created a default route to point to the virtual router that was within. Now, that's going to be good for traffic leaving from either of these two networks, going to the different virtual systems and going to the router and to the end devices. But from the end devices, the return traffic, the response from them will not go through, because once it gets to the response from them will get to the router. We'll equally set a default route here to point to this IP address, which is now being managed by the virtual router. And once the virtual router receives it, it has just one route that's pointing back to the virtual router. The virtual router is not aware about these two networks here. So we need to go back to the virtual router and then now specify routes that's going to point back to these two networks. And we'll tell the virtual router that if it receives traffic that's destined for these two networks, that's after the virtual routers, the virtual systems, then it should forward it to the virtual systems, because from the virtual systems are directly connected to these two different routes depending on which one is active. So it's always going to know how to forward it then. So VSX1 is connected to this network and VSX2 is connected to this other network. And we also need to set up our VLANs here, our access port and our trunk ports. So that's what we are going to do to round things up. So with that being said, I'm just going to go back here. Our virtual system has been created successfully. I'll close this. And I'm just going to go back to the first domain where we currently did a lot of work there. So I'll close this here as well. This one was done. So within this area here, you see our virtual router and equally our VSX1. But also we need to go back or double click into our virtual router to adjust the route as we discussed just now. If not, we are going to have a lot of problems. So now the same concepts apply depending on your environment that you're working in. If you understand the logic through it, definitely you can always see how to work around or play in your environment to make sure that things are working successfully. So once we do that, we are also going to come through and work through with our policies to see how we can make things work. So let's just give it some time to come up, and then from there, we'll see how to make the environment. So this is our virtual router that has opened. If I go to topology, let's go to click on topology here and see if we can see the setups we saw before. So this is what we had before. So following the routes, we have just directly connected routes to this, but there's a default route pointing to the external router. We have these two routes here pointing to the two networks that is directly connected to it, but you cannot find 172 the 172 network here and equally the 10.2.2 network here as well. So we need to add routes here. Instead of adding default, we just need to add the route. So you add a route here, and I'll just click on add. Hopefully it comes up on time. So I want to add a route, and we're just going to say if the destination is 10.2.2.0 with a subnet mask of, that's the IP address destination net mark. We'll put the subnet marks here. That's 255.255.255.0. And also the next hop, where should it send it to? We want it to send it to a virtual system. If you want to go to this network here, send it to the first virtual system that you know, because this network, this virtual VSX1 has this particular network directly connected to it, so you know how to route traffic behind it, and that's what you need there. We take OK, and also we're going to add another one again, and we see if the destination is 172.16.1.0, that's the network, with subnet marks 255.255.255.0. Should send it to VSX2. Send it to VSX2. This is our virtual router. Although we created the VSX on the other domain, we see from here we equally have access to it as well. So that's VSX2. We just hit OK there. And that should be it. That's the main thing we need from here for routing to be successful. So from here we'll take OK, and that should be that. So just hit OK, and then from here it should check through. So while that is going through, we'll just go back to our topology and we'll come to this switch. We need to create two VLANs and assign them. That's VLAN 10 for this interface specific and VLAN 20 for this other interface specific. And also this port has to be trunked. So I'll just double click there and then you set that up to make things work slow. So from there, we'll just hit enable, go to the configuration mode, configure terminal, and from there we take VLAN 10. I'll just give it a name like HR, and then I'll take VLAN 20, and I'll give it a name as IT, for instance. And I'll just take exit. So now, if we take the check our VLANs, so if we take the do show VLAN brief, we'll have our two VLANs, but now we need to assign ports that 0/1. 0/1 belongs to 20 and 0/2 belongs to 1. So we're just going to go to int gi 0/2 and we'll do the switch port mode access, switch port access VLAN 10. And I'm just going to take no shot if need be. And I'll take exit. We'll do enter the next interface in gi 0/1 and we'll do the same thing, switch port mode, and do the switch port mode access and the switch port access VLAN 20, and we'll take no short. And with that being said, the next thing we'll have to do is to set up G0/0 for trunking. This is just a basic setup. I'll take exit here. And while we're here, we'll just now input, we'll do the int gi 0/0 to get into the interface, and we'll do the switch port mode. I'll do switch port trunk. Trunk is not yet available here. Encapsulation.1q, and do the switch port mode trunk. For now, we'll just permit all VLANs for no restrictions, and I'll just save everything we have done. Do rmm to save everything there. So once we have that set, definitely from now on, we should expect that everything should be fine. But there's one final thing. But let's try it for connectivity first. I'll just go back to our Smart Console PC here. Operation is successful. I'll close this for VSX2. I'm going to go back to our MDS server that we have here for the first one, where we had all the different setups available. So everything is already set, and all our routes, as we wanted to see them, all of them are already all set from within here as well. So now, with all what we have here, what we just have left to do is to test for connectivity, and we'll just come here from this our first PC here. I'll open the CLI and we'll try to check through. So the first thing we expect is that the device should be able to reach its own gateway. So I'll just first of all check if the IP was set successfully. So we have our IP address that's already clearly set there, and the gateway too is well set. Subnet mask is okay. So we'll try to ping the gateway. We'll try to ping 10.2.2.1. You hit enter here. If you look closely, this is definitely going to time out here. So now the issue is, why is it not going to be working? The simple reason is because normally it's a firewall, and by default, firewall, the VSX is an independent firewall on its own, and by default, it equally has those firewall properties that's normally set to drop traffic if it's not explicitly permitted. So from here, what we need to do is you need to go to security policies here, and then you look at the default policy that's available. Let's just give it some time for it to come up. So if you look at the default policy here, you see it's set to drop all traffic, and that's not good. So just we'll first of all take here log. I just want to see logs in case it drops it next time, and we equally take accept here for now. And once we accept this, I'm just going to install this policy here. So we'll take in install, we'll publish first, and then we'll be prompted to install it on the VSX that's managed by this domain now. It's not going to be installed on all the different virtual systems that we created. Just the virtual system that's managed by this domain. Here you see it's going to be installed on these three. So from here, I'll just take install, and then we'll go on the other sector and install them there also as well. So I'll just take confirm since we want to change the default package that was there before. So you type confirm, and then you'll see the option to install that. So once that's installing, we can then also move to the second smart console terminal view. That's the domain 2 here. And also once we are here, we'll go to the security policies. And here as well, we'll just accept the default traffic for now, and we are going to log the traffic also. And once that is done, we just need to install it also here, so all devices have the ability, all traffic has the ability to flow through. Yep, we'll just install that now, and we'll hold on. So we'll just wait for this installation to be done, and hopefully once everything is ready, if all is fine, our traffic should go through smoothly now from these are devices to their gateway, and so on and so forth. Both the request and response from all sectors through the firewall should go through. And from here, you can have structured layered policies managing independent networks. From here, since our domain, this is a second domain server, you can structure policies here that is going to be filtering traffic that's coming towards this second network here. And the VSX1 is going to be filtering traffic that is coming to this network. So that's one of the use cases for having virtual firewalls hosted within a single checkpoint appliance to minimize cost depending on your environment you're in. And you equally have an MDS server here that's equally hosting several other domains. In other words, security management servers within the same MDS server here within a single appliance. So that's all made possible there. And we'll just hold on here. Let's look at the other installation part for the first domain if it's going through successfully. I'll just pin this here to the top as well. It's at 50%. I'll look at the details. So we'll just give it some time. So when everything is ready, I think we'll see it through, and it will be all good to go. From there, we can then proceed to testing. So our installations are almost done. They are finalizing. We can see everything here is successful. Let's check for the first domain. I think this is the first. Let's go to the second. Yes, here equally VSX2, everything is installed as well, and everything is successful. So now we can proceed then to our testing from all directions. everything should go through from, let's go to this win one, and I'll just do the same thing again. Can do the same thing one more time, and let's see. So with that being said, traffic is going through now to the gateway. And what about from this PC here to this other PC? We'll try to do the ping again. That's ping 172.16.1.2, and traffic is going through as well. So from here, traffic follows the path. From here, it's being trunked as well, gets to the virtual system, the VSX1, goes to VSX2, and from here is routed again. So from VSX1 gets to the virtual router sends it to VSX2, and VSX2 knows how to reach the destination and so forth. So let's try to see if we can reach this network here. That's 192.168.10.10. Try to ping that as well. Ping 192.168.10.10. If all goes well, it should be fine. So that's just it, as we did it all together. So that's it for the lab of today, guys. So with that being said, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more checkpoint related contents, and try to play around with it to see how to make your own environment match this use case depending on the need. So with that being said, I look forward to seeing you guys in the next video.